Hey y'all, Superintendent Bradley, esteemed board educators, thank you very much for taking the time to go over the district teaching and learning analysis and report for the Newton County schools as we are staying focused in alignment with our mission, which is being on a relentless pursuit to become the fastest improving school district in the state of Georgia, organized and led by a highly skilled teacher and leader workforce working tirelessly on behalf of children for the benefit of our community and producing breakthrough results. And that's what we're looking at today is what factors of our instruction, what factors of our practices are a little bit not in line with this goal, right? How do we become the fastest improving school district in Georgia? And we discovered a few things that I think can help us get there, where we're going to produce breakthrough results and help us to achieve our mission. So for today, we're going to look at analysis of the needs in our county, and then a plan of action for those, our identifiers of success. And then as we are continually improving adults, and we have agreed as a county that that's something that we should model for our students as well as we as professionals, how we can continually improve, and then just takeaways overall from this research. So needs analysis, how we identified some of the problems of practice in Newton County as we did surveys, looked at data, and then a comparative analysis with similar schools. So we surveyed primarily teachers at Eastside High School, looking at originally this plan was looking solely at Eastside High School, which we're going to have a increased focus on, but being that Newton County Schools has 3 high schools, 5 middle schools, and 13 elementary schools, we discovered that the problems that exist at Eastside High School kind of permeate between grade levels. So we used surveys to identify some of the needs, some of the issues that we're having. We looked at teachers, administrators, school leaders within Eastside High School to get some data. And then we looked at existing data. We looked at nationwide statistics and practices, as well as school, that being Eastside High School, compared to the county and compared to the state. And then lastly, we had a comparative analysis with similar schools. So we looked at primarily with the cell phone and attendance practices, which we're going to look at shortly. We're going to compare at what do schools do currently outside of the state of Georgia that might be working. So after consulting with teachers, administrators, and other faculty, our findings were threefold. One, that cell phones are a major distraction in the educational environment. And looking at the data behind this, 17% of teachers nationwide want cell phones in the classroom on a national-wide poll done by Education Week in 2024. But we had 22 teachers polled at Eastside High School, and 0% of them said they would want cell phones in the classroom environment. 17 states last year enacted laws that were banning cell phones in the classroom, not just you might get written up, but restricting electronic devices being restricted in the educational setting. And then another thing that we looked at that we discovered from talking with teachers and administrators is that reading levels are below grade level. And the data does back this up. At Eastside High School specifically, 42% of ninth graders read below grade level, and 33% of 10th graders were reading below grade level. There's some encouraging results or data there, seeing that as the students progressed throughout high school, they were reading more on grade level. And then lastly is chronic absenteeism is too high. It's something that's affected Georgia as a whole, and Eastside High School and Newton County school systems isn't subject to what Georgia is experiencing, as Georgia had a 13% chronic absenteeism rate in 2019, but in 2023 it was 22.9%. And just for the definition of that, about 10% students who miss more than 10% of the school year. Okay, so if we're looking at, say, for example, a 160-day school year, they're missing over 16 days of school. It means they're chronically absent. So what we want to do is individually go through those 3 points, look at our steps of action, and then how we're going to monitor if we're successful, and then what are we going to do if we aren't, or what are ways that we can modify our plans to ensure continual growth in each of these areas. So the first one we're looking at is cell phone use in the classroom. Our actual steps and kind of theme that we see throughout all these is an importance of collaboration between teachers, parents, and students working as a team. It's not teachers against students. It's not teachers against parents. A lot of time we felt that teachers and parents would talk at each other instead of talking with each other. And I think that's a conversation that needs to happen where our plan is to have countywide communication to be able to collaborate some of the issues, get parent input on what are the problems with cell phones in the classroom to help have more of a community buy-in, and then develop a revised cell phone policies within the school, having parameters for ramifications of students who have cell phones in the educational setting, and then provide professional developments for teachers. And then again, county and school-wide communication that we are going to have ongoing. How do we know we're going to be successful? Obviously, the one is students are no longer using phones in the classroom, but we think this can best be measured by quantitatively measured by the referrals for cell phone use being at the obviously goal level of 0, but we want to see a reduction in that. For what we need to, what if we need to improve? So what if we aren't meeting our goals? We really want to focus on individual communication with parents. So again, making sure we're talking with parents, not at parents, and making sure they understand the importance of students being engaged in the classroom setting, and then additional professional development as needed. The next point was the low student level. So some of the data that we looked at for this was looking at the Lexile score, which shows what grade level students were looking at. There's some deep dives that we did that there was some students who just didn't try on the test. We discovered some students who tested at a second grade level, who were reading at a 9th or 10th grade level, just didn't care about the test. Well, we actually went back and had some of the kids retest, but we still found that 43% of our freshmen at Eastside High School still were struggling with their reading levels. So we have an increased focus on catching students entering high school with below grade level reading skills. And how are we going to do this? And this is big countywide, because there's actually data that came out that a student who can make sure they're reading on grade level by 4th grade is 3 times more likely to graduate high school than the student who is below grade level. So we want to have a countywide reading intervention plan, and the people who are going to be targeted for this plan are students whose Lexile scores are lower than 2 grade levels. So say a student is in 7th grade, if they're reading at a 5th grade level or lower, then they'd be part of this plan. And we want to assign mentors for each student who meets this criteria. Kind of the obstacle to this is going to be some sort of cost, as we're going to have probably an increased amount of resources in terms of peer support. But we want to have it weekly individual support and after school support for students to make literacy a primary focus as we seek to be the fastest improving county in Georgia. But we also need professional development for teachers. We've discovered that sometimes, especially in the high school setting, that teachers who are in math or science don't necessarily have a focus on literacy, but literacy affects all aspects of the students' ability to perform well after graduation. So what we're proposing is a professional development for teachers where they're able to better learn how to integrate literacy into their content area. And then how do we know if they're successful? We're going to see a countywide increase in students reading at or above grade level. And we're going to be able to, one thing that we will do also is increasing progress checks, not just relying on the Lexile scores, which happen twice a year, spring and fall, but have regular progress checks to monitor data, as we want to be data driven as we seek to continually improve. What if we need to improve? So what if we realize that after a goal, or after a certain period of time, we haven't met our goal of increasing students reading at grade level? We want to increase individual communication with parents by teachers and administration, ongoing communication as a partnership, as a team. Then also revise mentor intervention assignments, revisit that program, see how that's working, is having mentors assigned to students working. And then we might have to do additional professional development for teachers. This is an ongoing process we're going to work in. We've had years of Lexile scores not being where they should be. So we know this is going to be an ongoing continual process to see what we can do to improve as a school system. So we might have to see what professional development is or isn't working. We want to reach out back to our teachers, see what they think of literacy, see how they've been able to improve it, and then take their feedback. The last point that we're looking at is chronic absenteeism. This is something that nationwide has dropped since COVID, and there's a couple theories for why this is. Some people, there might be a fear to returning to the classroom setting, but also with students who weren't going to school during 2020 and 2021, they didn't see the value in going to the school building. I mean, there were students who graduated 1, maybe 2 years of school without having to step foot in a building. So students are starting to, some students don't see the value in being in the classroom, which is something we need to reinforce as we were seeing these literacy rates drop. We know that a direct tie to that can be the students not being in the classroom. So we want to develop actionable steps, develop committees among parents, counselors, and teachers dedicated to addressing absences. We really want to, again, having the parents involved and a sense of community kind of tied throughout all of these needs. And we want to develop a program where counselors are going to work together with the teachers and the parents to reach out to the parents and explain why absenteeism is such an issue. There's some students who don't believe it's an issue to miss 30, 40 days of school. And then we also want to introduce incentives. So we don't want to just be saying, well, this is what you should do, but also rewarding kids who are showing up to school. And this is perfect attendance, not just for students who had chronic absenteeism and start showing up to school, but also rewarding students who are currently showing up to school and aren't chronically absent, but overall just rewarding those who are doing so. And then also we need to identify barriers. So what are we missing? What are some things that are preventing kids from coming to school? Are there transportation issues? Are there issues at the home that we need to intervene in where there's need for students? And what we're going to see is, how do we know if we're successful? There's going to be chronic absenteeism is reduced in our county. And what if we need to improve? We might change the messaging and communication with parents or change the incentives that we have. So this is going to be ongoing. Again, we don't expect to have this 100% perfect. And again, we're going to continue research into trying to identify what these barriers are for the students to coming to school. I think these 3 things all together, between cell phone usage, literacy, and attendance, if those 3 issues can be addressed and maybe not solved, but improved, we could see a huge, tremendous breakthrough in Newton County. So one of the big takeaways from this, after interacting with the leadership, there's a few things. One is the parent and community buy-in is imperative. We got to have involvement from parents, got to have involvement from the community, stakeholders in the community who are going to be the ones hiring these kids, the ones who are going to be involved with these kids. We need to have everyone all on board because overall, as a society, we're better off if we have students who are well-rounded individuals who are able to positively contribute to society. Also, children need one-on-one interventions. They need an individual looking at them in the eyes and telling them that they're missed when they aren't at school, right? Well, they need to know that there's someone who cares about them, someone who's there. It's not just a teacher behind a Zoom screen or a teacher who doesn't know their name. We want to have one-on-one interventions. And then also we need schools and districts to be aligned, all working together. Man, we can have tremendous things happen when everyone's all in the same boat, not just the parents and the stakeholders in the community aligning with the teachers, but also making sure the schools and the districts are working together and being aligned on the same page. Overall, I think for these 3 things, we've found statistically can help us out to be the fastest growing or fastest improving county in Georgia, and we can have breakthrough results if we're able to solve the issues of chronic or cell phone usage, as well as low literacy levels and low reading levels, below grade level with our students in all of our schools. And then also the issue of chronic absenteeism. Thank you all so much for allowing me the time to be here. And I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day. Any questions, please feel free to ask.